We're live. Awesome. Hello, and thank you for joining us on The Question is Why. I'm your host, Chelsea Wall, and today's special guest is Justin Wilson. Welcome, Justin. This is your second time as a guest here on the show. You visited us a few months back and told your story about your experience with drugs and your experience in prison. And so today I wanted to bring you back and just talk a little bit more about how that experience led you to where you are today back in Lethbridge, living a healthy lifestyle through faith and your journey on fitness there. So do you want to maybe just recap and introduce yourself again and maybe tell the story of what happened to you in your experience, and then we can move forward on to where
Sure.
you are now.
All right, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So I originally from Canada, and then we moved to the States when I was a kid, and then at some point I started getting in trouble, and started using drugs, and then started committing crimes. So, and over the course of time, it got more and more severe. I got involved with some very serious individuals, and the crimes escalated and ultimately led to multiple short periods of incarceration, followed by 5 years in a state penitentiary from the age of 20 to 25. And so that's the fast recap.
Yeah, there was a really good story behind that. And if we had another hour, we'd sit and talk about it all over again. I would love to hear it again because I think it's an amazing story. But so this whole entire time when you were in prison, we talked kind of a lot on the last show about you getting up to that point, but we didn't really talk a whole lot about those 5 years in prison. But you did mention when you were in prison that you found faith a few times, but you kind of went back and forth.
Right.
So maybe tell us a little bit about that time in there and how you had some time, I guess, to reflect on what you were going to do next with your life, right?
Right. So first, why I got locked up the last time was on a home invasion, right? And so I caught a sentence of 5 years fixed, 5 years indeterminate, which meant like I had to do a full 5. So I did a full 5, and I'd already been locked up on and off since right before I turned 18. Like I turned 18 in a juvenile detention facility, got out, was out for a little while, did go to a drug rehab program, got kicked out, had to go to another one, finished it, went to jail for 90 days, was out for a bit, went to jail for 20 days, was out for a while, running the streets, selling drugs, selling guns, doing a lot of silly stuff, hitting enemies for certain people, and then ultimately the home invasion that we were there to, we went from one state to another state, cross state lines, was for the purpose of hurting an individual, and they arrested me 2 months later, actually in the middle of a cocaine deal, and which I caught a prison sentence for that as well, but I had a far greater sentence for the home invasion, and I ended up doing just over 5 years, and then I actually got deported back to Canada as I was still a Canadian citizen, as I was born here and lived here as a kid, so not allowed to return to the United States ever.
Ever?
Ever, yeah, I got a lifetime ban. Yeah, so I had a video hearing with a federal judge, and they gave me a lifetime ban. So some guys get 10 years, some guys get 20 years. Some people get life. I got a life.
Wow.
And so, which is not the end of the world, right?
There's so many other places you can visit, right?
So I can travel places. I just have to fly direct. I just no layovers in the States.
Wow, and that sometimes is probably a little bit of an issue then if, a lot of our flights have
you just gotta strategically.
I was gonna say, gotta plan that one good, right?
If you book a trip, you make sure there's no U.S. layover, right?
That's crazy.
I still have some family in the States, so it's kind of unfortunate I can't go see them, but they can come up here.
Yeah.
No.
I was gonna say Canada's nicer, but maybe we don't want to get into that conversation, right?
But then so like locked up when I got locked up the last time, at the very beginning I was in. You sit in what's called a county jail when you go through court, and then after you get sentenced, you get in transport, and then you go to the pen if you're going to prison, right? So while I was in county jail, I was bored. There was a small number of books. There was some paperback copies of the New Testament in contemporary English, the contemporary English version. So it wasn't like in King James or English that is harder to understand. It says the exact same thing. It's just in today's words, right? So I picked up a copy of the New Testament. I read it. I believed it. I was in the jail I was in. There was another guy, a guy from like a gangster from Arizona that was there that had become a Christian, and he was sort of mentored me in my faith walk in the beginning, and so I had somebody to fellowship with, right? And so I, really started like trying to embrace my newfound Christianity. I didn't know tons about it necessarily. I started to embrace my newfound Christianity, and the fact that Jesus died for our sins, that all is not lost, that through my faith in Him I can be forgiven and saved, and it was like this light turned on, and I decided, I was like, man, regardless of whether I stay on the straight and narrow, or even if I were to go back to a criminal life at some point, that I made the conscious decision to never use drugs again, because I was a meth addict from when I was 16 till I was 20, which probably helped fuel some of my decisions. And then as my faith grew, I was like, man, I really can't go back to that life. But at some point I got sentenced, after going through all the court proceedings, I got sentenced to the penitentiary. And you go to prison, and prison's not a nice place. And I don't want to get too deep into prison stuff, but it's not a cool place. I probably have a lot of excuses for why I backslid, but I backslid, and you have friends, you have homies, the homeboys that are from, that say you don't necessarily know on the streets, but that are affiliated with the same people, same groups of people you were on the streets, right? Without getting too deep into that, a lot of my friends on the streets were part of certain things that span multiple states, and they're in all the prison systems, and especially in the Western United States. And so you have friends, even people you've never met, but they're still your friends, right? And so you're hanging out more or less, but doing your thing, and you expect to act a certain way, and carry yourself a certain way, right? And you can't be weak, and you can't back down, and you can't.
So did you have to hide that faith in the beginning then?
No, I didn't hide it. Okay. I was still pretty vocal about it. I like a funny story. When I first hit general population, I was I was in medium security, and you're in a tier at a pod with was it like, some of them had 80 men, some had 88. So 40 or 44 cell pods, right? And then three pods makes a unit. And then there's multiple units in the facility, right? So 1,300 people in this specific facility, 1,800 in one across the street, 600 max down the road. Like you can kind of see the lights of the other facilities, but you can't at night, like through your tiny window, but you have no contact with them.
All the same criminal activities, or the same type of criminals in those pods?
So well, they'd be all variety of things. There'd be people with like 7 DUIs housed in the same pod as dudes that have 2 bodies under them, guys that have killed people, right?
Wow.
And so, and drug traffickers and all manner of every crime. It's just like you get classified when you go in. It'll be a point system based on your crimes, and there's a whole bunch of factors put into it, right? And so you're housed with people of the similar point classification as you. Okay. Right. So, but anyway, shortly after I got to prison, there was a guy, and I don't need to say his name, but he was fairly influential amongst a certain group of people, and I would like chat with him, and I was new, whatever. He was good to me, for lack of a better way to put it. And so you're I remember at the end of the day, they're like, hey, sell up, right? Like you gotta hit your cell, they close the door, and you're in there for the night, right? Until the morning when they roll your doors for breakfast, and then you're back in for count, and you're out for movement, or to go to the yard, or to go to the day room, and then you're back in for count. It's sort of back and forth thing all day. But anyway, we're getting ready to sell up for night, and I was chatting with this guy, and then he I was trying to like at least verbally live my newfound faith, and I was like, oh, like God bless you, Holmes, or whatever I said, like at the end of the day. And he actually stopped me, and he's like, look, I appreciate what what you're trying to say, but I'm not really in that place right now. And I was like, understood, right? Like I can have all the faith I want, but I should probably stop.
It's all yours.
Spouting it in certain guys' faces, because most of these guys they actually believe or had some root in Christianity, or especially like most of them were Hispanic, so they had like roots in Catholicism.
Yeah.
Actually, but I mean when your daily goal is to introduce contraband at a facility and jack fools up, like the last thing all these guys want is just a reminder of God. Right?
What they're doing wrong, right?
You know? And another like funny, like, so over the course of time though, I started having some issues with anxiety. Had some personal issues, a lot of questions about the Bible, a lot of doubtful seeds planted, and I was like, I don't know if I believe this anymore. I think sort of switched to being agnostic, right? Where it's like, I believe there's a possibility there's a God, but I don't necessarily believe him anymore.
Where are the facts?
Right. So then, I remember I was getting my hair cut, and it's just like with clippers. It's scissors, right? And you have clippers, and this guy was a barber who was this old school gang member from Southern California, who was our barber, barber in my unit, and he was my friend. I just talked to him all the time. Another guy that when I first went in kind of took me under his wing, and he I remember telling him like, I don't know if I believe in God anymore. And this guy who was like a serious like lifetime criminal, like paused, stopped buzzing my head, and was like, "What do you mean you don't believe in God?" He's like, "What are we, toast? You just popped up out of nowhere?" And this is someone who like would have been aware of murder, someone who was okay with a lot of stuff in his life, but like the fact that I could be like, I don't believe in God, was just like mind blowing to him, right? He's like adamant, like there's God, trust me.
That's amazing.
Right? So I'm like, okay, right? But it took, so I investigated other religions or other walks in a certain way. Like I went to some Buddhist meditations. I went to there was
this after being incarcerated?
Like still in prison.
So you had those there was places where you could explore that?
Yeah, because there's like one chapel, but the different groups have different time slots.
Okay.
And so there was even like a Taoist group, like Tao, like it's like kind of old Chinese folk religion, for lack of a better way to put it, and that I got pretty interested in for a while, being half Chinese and half Caucasian, right? But I rolled with Mexicans on the streets, rolled with Mexicans in prison. It was sort of my jam. There wasn't a lot of Asian dudes there, but it's just what I knew, right? But to have there's a few Asian guys and one of them was involved in this Taoist group, so I went just sort of maybe trying to embrace my culture or something. And so I kind of got interested in that. I didn't really buy a lot of the premise. I very enjoyed the meditation stuff.
You did or didn't?
I did.
You did.
Enjoy the meditation part. It was calming. I didn't really buy a lot of the stuff behind it, and so I started to just sort of retain my agnostic view, and then at some point I got out and got deported back to Canada, and had some family help me, and I went on the straight and narrow, determined to make it, and got a job, and met a girl on a blind date who eventually became my wife, and she was a Christian girl, and she was a pretty good witness about Christianity, and I came back to Christianity, and I'll never turn away from Jesus again. I've had moments of doubt, but like anybody, right? But at the end of the day, I firmly 100% believe that Jesus Christ died for our sins, was raised from the dead, that through our faith in Him we're saved, and He's God.
And your family, you weren't raised then at all?
No, we were. When I was a kid, we were actually my dad's side of the family were Mormons, actually. So when I was a kid, I was raised in the LDS church, and then my family stopped going at some point. My parents got divorced, and then I started as just nothing, and then until I found
your way.
Protestant Christianity when I was locked up.
That's interesting. And it's interesting too, like that, to read the Bible, in my opinion anyways, it's kind of complicated.
Right.
It's not something that, it's not like a book where it's from start to finish. Like,
right.
It's a lot of, questions, and just being like, what does this mean? And what did he do?
Right.
And how? And so when you say there that you had like I'm assuming pastors or priests or whoever you had, could you ask them questions? Like, were you allowed to?
Yeah, there are
spend
people
time
that
with
come
them?
in for like the quote unquote religious services, and then there's like a chaplain even in the prison who was actually a Christian chaplain that ran the chapel, or like the, even though multiple groups used it, he was the guy that was in
Kind of
charge of it.
overseeing.
Yeah.
And you could ask him questions.
You
and
could, for sure.
You could explore some of these and question some of this. And
Right.
then you were saying you had some support from some other people. So that is kind of interesting, because I guess I kind of just assumed that, like, probably the people, like you say, that you rolled with in prison would be like, hey, yo, like, you can't hang out with us for this reason.
No,
So
not
it's
at
kind
all.
of-
You can believe what you want to believe. It's just a matter of.
Like, did you ever fear for your life then if you decided no longer to pursue what you were doing?
No, I don't. I wouldn't say that. It's not necessarily like that. Like you can believe what you want to believe, but it's a matter of like, as long as you're still good with your people, or like your car, for lack of a better way to put it, like you're the guys you roll with, and you're reliable. You're not going to tell.
That trust.
You're not weak. Like, meaning if you're challenged by someone, you're going to fight. You're going to do what you have to do. You don't back down, right? You're good. Like, nobody beyond that, they don't really care what you believe, unless it's like, oh, I'm a Christian, so I can't hit you back. Just sock me in the face 20 times, stab me, whatever. Like, that's going to be a problem with your people. You know what I mean? And but like turn the other cheek is a hard one in prison. It's not a thing.
Well, I could believe that.
It's definitely not a thing.
Yeah.
Not unless you want to be victimized every day.
Yeah. Okay. And so you didn't like that. For you, religion wasn't a weakness. This wasn't something you thought people were going to be like, "Oh, he's weak because he's gone this direction." No. You knew that.
No.
You obviously were tough enough to know, like, if I make a decision, I can back myself by it and stand strong behind what I make. Right. So that's interesting. Now, tell us a little bit about where you took your life. So you were deported. You came back to Lethbridge.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, you've had a life of crime. You've been incarcerated for 5 years.
Yeah. So
what skills did you have?
So basically, from ages of 16 to 20, I was ran the streets, did whatever, became a drug addict, and was essentially working on being a career criminal of sorts, and then was locked up on and off, and then in prison for 5 straight years after that, right? So 9 years. By the time I got out, 9 of my 25 years had been spent essentially in the jungle of sorts, and so I didn't have a lot of skills other than like I an Asian kid that could speak fluent Spanish, and
Which in Lethbridge, I don't know, is that super helpful?
It's not that helpful.
Yeah.
There's the odd time.
Yeah.
But so I didn't have like I like to think I'm a relatively intelligent guy. I've always liked reading and whatnot, right? And when I did attend school, I did very well when I was interested in it. So, and I learned things very fast. So I knew I could probably do anything I wanted to, right? And and still have no criminal record in Canada. So,
interesting. Okay.
So I don't, like, I was never on parole here. I was never on anything here. Like, I've even a previous job, they'd run a police service Canada check because we dealt with people's credit and stuff, and it came out clean, right?
So you could leave that there. You could quite literally be like, my past is in the States.
Entire other country, right?
Yeah.
So,
I wouldn't have known that.
yeah, so I don't have a criminal record here whatsoever, right? So, just that, like through all the stuff I've been through, the ability to adapt and make it is probably, which I think is an underrated skill in general, because in today's society, a lot of people haven't, especially the younger generation, especially somebody who, like, I employ people now, encounter people under a certain age that haven't really been through a lot, or seem to have gone through less.
There's a little more shelter now
than the previous generations.
Yeah.
And we're accustomed to less adversity, and that I was accustomed to like a ton of adversity and hardship and pain and a lot of things, right? And so that made, and like I think of myself as a survivor, so I was very adaptable to making it one way or the other. And so I knew I'd make it. It just
Did you know how or what? Like, did you have an
No.
idea of like,
No, no.
hey, maybe I'll go back to school, or maybe I'll get into law enforcement? No,
No.
that never crossed your mind.
No, I could never be a cop. That's not a thing either.
You'd be
No,
big.
disrespect
I
the
mean, you'd
cops.
be, yeah, yeah.
They do a valuable
Make a good
service
cop.
to the community. But no, I just knew I could. If I worked hard enough, I could do whatever I wanted to, right? And this is like a belief in myself, and then once I came back to Jesus, my faith, and I knew in certain aspects of the bulletproof, like I would make it one way or the other.
You just trusted.
Right.
And so you came back, and then somebody gave you an opportunity in a health supplement store. Is that? how it
Yeah.
started?
So I had a few menial jobs, and then I took a couple semesters in college in an accounting program, and
In accounting.
yeah, wasn't a huge fan of that. I thought I was good at math, so I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah, I'll be an accountant.
It didn't have anything to do with math. It just
That's so
it
funny.
was very dry and boring.
Yeah, I believe that.
And so then I at some point I actually got married to the girl I went on a blind date with, and we're newly married, and I got a job managing a supplement store, and so I managed this like a supplement store selling protein powder and things of that nature, and I was real interested in bodybuilding because in prison I'd started working out and I'd gotten in good shape, and so then I got out and you start to eating real food again and stuff, and this not this like extreme pressure to work out all the time. You start to get in poor shape. But then I had this big interest in bodybuilding, and so I managed the supplement store, and studied a lot of like nutritional theory by other guys, like bodybuilding coaches, they're called prep coaches, and so I would pick someone and almost like internet stalk their stuff and just try to learn as much as I could. And back then, social media was a fraction of what it is now. Like Facebook existed, but Instagram didn't exist, and a lot of other things, right? YouTube was like brand new within like 2 years at that point and all that, and so I there was bodybuilding forums, like boards, and I would spend time on certain reputable ones and try to learn things, and I was managing the store and whatnot. And
Were you bodybuilding yourself at this time?
No,
Like,
just training, just working out for health, right? But then I started helping some customers just with like simple diet plans, and then these people started getting good results. And I was like, I'm not going to charge you anything. Just if you enjoy what I do, just tell people. And so, and pretty soon, more people were coming to see me. And then pretty soon, in 2009, I got certified to be a trainer, and midway through that year, started getting paid a little bit for helping people with their nutrition and training programs. And then I had a part-time guy that worked for me at the store that wanted to do a bodybuilding show, and he was a student. He didn't have a lot of money, so I was like, okay, this is the deal. I'll help you best I can. If you enjoy the service I provide, just tell people.
Yeah.
And he placed third in the show out of like 7, and he was a junior and a drug-free junior in a non-tested show. Placed third out of 7, and I got help from another local guy for the very end stuff. From my friend Wes, he owns Lethbridge Supplements, Vitamins now, but he was well versed in bodybuilding stuff, so he helped me with like the last, what's called the peak week, like the final week or the final 2 weeks in this case of this guy's program, because that was sort of out of my realm, right? And so then this kid did well, and then I helped another guy that year that was doing a fitness model show in Toronto, but he lived here, and he placed second in his class or something.
Oh.
And then people kept hiring me to help them lose weight, and then by the middle of 2010 I quit working at the supplement store and personal trained people on the side a little bit out of other locations, and then did the online nutrition coaching on my own from home. And then by 2011 I opened my own gym. In 2012 we expanded into another bay, and at some point I had like 8 or 9 employees total. And we're a little smaller now, but we still I have a gym. I have a core group of reliable employees, and one of the girls, Jenna's worked for me since 2011. Jen's worked for me since 2012, and then I have a few other employees. Right.
That's amazing. That's for nowadays. That's a long stint to be.
And even I have like clients, like the guy that did the fitness model show in Toronto in 2009. He's to this day, when he does competitions or challenges or whatever, he still uses me 10 years later, right?
Wow.
And
you never ever expected this? Like, did you think, having this life that you had and then coming out of prison and being like, wow, like, I can help people by doing this?
Right. I think like I perceived the need for it. A lot of it came from when I was working at the store. There was a lot of, I would ask, you make conversation with people, and a common thing people came in for, like they came in and they wanted fat burners. Like, well, what's your diet like? What are you doing? And a common thing at the time was people had just quit doing what at the time was one of those popular, quote unquote weight loss programs. And I'd be like, well, how much did you spend on it, right? And they were spending upwards of, the common amount was about $5,000 over the course of a year, right? And so, I remember one couple was like, oh, we spent 10 grand between the two of us, and the woman's like, I lost 20 pounds, and he lost 30 pounds or whatever.
What?
It was worth it. And I was like, this is insane, right? And it was like, well, we had to buy like a base amount of certain supplements every week, and then extra things on top of it if we wanted, and they gave them the super generic diet, right? And so I was like, and there's like an opportunity to help people, and being able to monetize it was a bonus. And it just worked out. And then at some point, it like you said, it just kept growing and growing. And there wasn't a lot of people that did what I did locally at that time. And now we have competition, and most of my local competition in this regard actually were people who were my clients at some point.
Oh, really?
And so some are very good at what they do, and my friends, and the odd one are, we'll say, marginal at what they do, but really good at social media.
It's funny how that works, right?
But not my friend, for sure. Right?
That's awesome.
Borderline fraudulent.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. Yeah. At the end of the day, that in my opinion, that doesn't matter. If people are getting what they pay for out of them and they're happy with their service, then good for them.
Yeah, right. We have to be true and authentic to ourselves and what we believe. So, I'm not at all versed in bodybuilding, or actually, to be quite honest, I'm not versed in anything fitness at all. I don't really enjoy it, but I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about what it's like to bodybuild, or to help people.
Well, I personally, I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm a competitive powerlifter.
Okay, so there is a difference between bodybuilding and powerlifting.
Two completely different sports.
Yeah, all I see is you guys do those dumbbell things, and I assume that's like bodybuilding.
No, so bodybuilding is a mix of your training and a big part of a lot of diet, right?
Okay.
And so building enough muscle that when you get lean, you look good. And there's lots of categories. When I first started coaching people, there was only a few categories. Now there's way more.
And this is competing against other people because of how you look.
Right, it's subjective.
Not strength.
Yeah,
or not.
That's bodybuilding. Is a subjective sport based on your appearance and presentation.
Okay.
Right, and when we today, the biggest categories are for girls, it would be bikini would be the biggest category, which didn't exist when I first started prepping people for shows, and even and men's physique is this huge category that didn't exist then either. So there's other new prep coaches and whatnot that weren't even around in that era, that probably don't even realize that it hasn't been that long that certain categories have existed.
So you evolved with this industry,
right? In the first show, back then there was men's and women's bodybuilding, and there was figure, and there was fitness, not fitness model, which is a category now in certain federations, but fitness model didn't even only existed in a few federations then. At that point, it was fitness was girls, they had to do a mix of they do a routine that was either gymnastics or dance or a mix of both, and then they also had to do quarter turns for their appearance, right? And that's not many people even do that anymore. But then there's so many other categories now that have been added since then, right? Women's physique and men's physique and class physique and bikini, and in some of the smaller federations, fitness model, and next year there's going to be a new one called wellness, and there's it's just this ever expanding thing. And so to purists, it's actually really annoying, but to someone who makes money off of coaching people, it's good for business. There's personal sensibilities about it that actually annoy me, but it's good for business. It expands your client base. So
Yeah, yeah.
Right? But at the end of the day, the majority of what our revenue isn't even bodybuilding and stuff. So the majority of our social media ends up being bodybuilders, or especially like fitness girls in some regards, and nowadays powerlifters, because we have
that's huge.
a good powerlifting crew. But the majority of our revenue still comes from like average Joes and moms losing weight.
So it's actually putting people on nutrition programs just to live healthy.
Just to live healthy.
It's not because they want to compete and wear a bikini in front of people. It's quite literally, I'm not healthy right now. I need to get healthy. Put me on the program. And do you train them in the gym then as well, or is it just
so we have
nutrition?
personal training at the gym, but the online nutrition coaching aspect is by far our
just food
biggest.
Mostly then?
Just like telling them what to eat, or giving. So we have 3 different ways we program people, right? One would either be like a direct food plan with some substitution options. One would be macros, where it's like they got to do some math, they got to do some figuring out, and then another version we call direct source macros. It's similar to diabetic exchange, but so based on the person and their aptitude for figuring stuff out, we can, if they're like, I just want it very easy, just tell me what to do, we do that. If they're like, I know a certain amount about nutrition and I don't like to get bored, but then we can accurately track macros, we can do that. There's a lot of things we can do, but all of their nutrition plan is in conjunction with like a varying cardio program and ideally a training program, right? So not everybody lifts weights, but they should. Even grandmas should. Not to get jacked, but for the sake of bone density, delay of osteoporosis, improving insulin sensitivity, a whole host of.
By lifting weights.
Absolutely.
Well, that's interesting. I would have just assumed. Just watching even like the powerlifting and stuff, I just always think like, that's so damaging to your body.
But it's not powerlifting though. They're doing something entirely different.
But even like you say, seniors and stuff. Like I just feel like, can they not hurt themselves by lifting those? Like,
they can, but it's a different. It's like lighter. It's a higher rep range.
And they probably start like so basic,
and,
right?
And it's an entirely different programming.
Is it with dumbbells and stuff? Like you would never get anybody to press, like a senior to bench press?
It would depend on the person. Everybody's different. But there's no one size fits all.
Do you have a CrossFit portion of it too?
No, we don't. We don't. It's not what we do. I used to have a guy that worked for us as a trainer, that was actually interested in CrossFit and was pretty good at it. But it's not something we do. But there are good local CrossFit boxes, I think they're called, that if someone wants to do that'd be their, if they came to us for that, we would direct them to one of those.
Yeah, you would.
Because it's out of our scope. Like, I'm not going to try to sell you on, no, do this. It's like, if that's your heart set on that, those guys can definitely help you better than we can. I'm not afraid to.
Yeah, well, you want what's best for people
Absolutely,
in general, right?
Because the worst thing in the world is someone paying you for something that you can't do.
Yeah,
right?
and to fake it or something, right? I agree with that. No, so you don't actually, like your business, Impact Nutrition, you don't actually do any kind of training then for the, what was the one again? The deadlift? What's the one you guys do?
For powerlifting?
Powerlifting.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. And so that's what you're into, right? Because, I mean, anybody who
that
follows you on social media.
That was my personal hobby. Okay. And then at some point, more people started doing it. And we started having some good powerlifters. And much like, not to sound like conceited, but when we first started coaching people in bodybuilding, there was like probably a core group of 6 or 7 local bodybuilders that had sort of done it for a long time. Not too many people that really coached it or anything. And then I was coaching people in it, and then it just happened to have good timing around this explosion of new categories and new federations. And now all of a sudden, 1 million people are doing it. My Instagram is the most annoying place on earth because it's you never think that pictures of girls' butts would get so annoying, but like the captions and the obsession with fitness, and this is where like the people that work for me are gonna cringe that I would say this on air, but like this, it makes me crazy that how much people involved in the fitness industry act like this giant noble thing they're doing, like they're curing cancer, solving world hunger. It's like, and you're engaged in an extremely selfish sport. That good for you for accomplishing a goal, but you're not, like, nobody owes you shit for this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, good for you for accomplishing your goal, and we'd love to help you accomplish that, but don't, like, you're not Mother Teresa because you got a good
It's funny how that ego takes over, right? When somebody goes from being normal to what people may look at as an influencer or somebody who's yeah, like you say, achieve this goal, how it changes their ego.
Right, and I've seen people's entire personalities change.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have like every year I have like this personal, I don't want to say crisis, but like I really like examine why certain services we provide, why I do them, right? Because I used to be really passionate about helping people get in shape. I like for bodybuilding shows, it was really exciting. I helped people achieve their goals. We had lots of people win. We had multiple pro card winners in multiple federations, and all the way across. And it, over the course of time, I've seen so many people change and their personalities change, and it some for good, and some that are almost unbearable at this point. Right, and so I my personal issue, I don't let that get in the way of doing my job. Though, if you hire me to do it, we're gonna help you the best of my ability. We're gonna make this happen, right?
What happens to that person in that transition has nothing to do with you. You're just
I can try to
giving them tools.
give advice on or steer them in the right direction on that thing. But at the end of the day, that there are some of
their choices, right?
It's your choice, right? And see, it's like powerlifting was sort of a very niche sport, and it still is, but it was fun. It was something I personally enjoyed that we didn't really coach anyone for, and then it started to grow, and then I helped a couple people, again, similar to bodybuilding. I just helped a couple people for free. Just like, sure, we can do that, or you can come here and train. We got the right stuff for it at my gym. And then all of a sudden there's just this explosion of powerlifting, and then all these other people are suddenly coaching powerlifting, right? Which is fine because it's a free market.
Yeah.
Right? But it's become this thing where like people I used to coach are now in the competition, and some of them are very good, some of them are my friends, some of them I highly respect, and some are garbage at their job.
Yikes.
Right? But that's just how it is. Yeah,
people sometimes find ways of capitalizing on things, right? And trying to dominate a market when it doesn't really work that way. So tell people, like, where can they find you? We'll wrap up tonight. If is this program online? And can they look?
So like even with our online nutrition coaching, you don't have to be local. Like we about a third of our clients are actually far out of our local area, and we get clients internationally. And we just had a girl on stage in New England last weekend, a girl that lives in Boston that did a bikini show in New England. So like last weekend I was in Edmonton, and over the course of a 2-day powerlifting meet, there was myself and 5 clients competing there, and then we had a girl on stage at a bikini show in Calgary that did well, and a girl on stage at a bikini show in out east in the eastern United States in New England that did well at her show too. So there's like we're not like our local gym. It's cool to have a place to go and have my own small gym, but it's not really what we do is the online stuff.
Your reach is worldwide,
right. and the people checks in every week. We have a form system, and we make adjustments as they go. Myself and the other coaches we have, right? And so we have a website, www.impactnutrition.ca, or we're on Facebook, you're Impact Nutrition, or we're on Instagram, Impact Nutrition Fitness. You can email us at info@impactnutrition.ca, and we can help you regardless of what your goal in most cases. And if it's something we can help you with, we know someone who can, we wouldn't hesitate to direct you to someone who would do better in certain realms than we would.
Awesome. And questions are always welcome, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah,
so anybody
absolutely.
that ever has a question like how you can help me, or and that's awesome. And this radio station, it reaches on average 4.4 million worldwide. So I'm like, this is a really great place to be able to share these stories, because it's not just local, right? It's worldwide. So thank you so much for being on the show tonight. I'm just going to wrap up by introducing next week's guest. So next week I'm going to have Kim from Naturista. Kim is the owner and operator of Naturista, a local health and wellness store here in Lethbridge, and we'll be talking to Kim about her personal experience with burnout. So I'm looking forward to having Kim on the show next week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. live here on Jess FM.
I have to give a shout out to my daughter, who I'm not going to name.
Yeah, let's not name.
Who's looking at me right now? Who sat through both episodes of this silent as a mouse.
She is amazing.
And
yes.
And so
I feel like Brent made more noise than she did. Every time something was over here, it was him, not her. So she's been so patient to here, and she's a very sweet girl.
She's a beautiful, amazing little girl.
Yeah. Someday we'll get her on here and not air it. We'll just let her do her own little show, and we just won't air it because I could see her being up on here at some point in her life. She's very natural with that. So awesome! Thank you so much for being on the show again. And yeah, if you want some help with your nutrition here, reach out to Justin at Impact Nutrition. Thanks, guys. Have a great evening.